There are places the world no longer remembers, places that breathe between the grains of time, buried so deeply beneath the sands that even memory itself hesitates to approach them. The desert wind carries their whispers, faint and fractured, as if warning those who dare to listen. It is said that once, long before history found the courage to write its first line, a temple stood at the heart of the world. Not a temple of gods, nor of men, but of something in between, something that knew the hidden rhythm of creation itself. Travelers who crossed those endless dunes told of a strange silence that would descend without warning, a stillness so complete that even their own heartbeat felt intrusive. Then in that silence, a sound, low, harmonic like the breath of the earth. Some claimed it was the sound of the temple itself, sleeping beneath their feet. Others said it was the last echo of an ancient warning, that those who seek the ultimate knowledge must pay the ultimate price. Legends describe the temple as neither stone nor sand, but a structure that shimmered between worlds. Its walls were said to glow faintly at twilight, reflecting constellations not of the present sky, but of another age entirely, an age when the stars themselves were different. It was built by hands unknown and for reasons lost. The few surviving fragments of forgotten scrolls refer to it only as the house of the first light. To some, that meant a place of divine revelation. To others, it was a prison built to contain something too dangerous to exist. In every culture that brushed the edges of antiquity, there are echoes of this place. The Egyptians spoke of Zep Tepi, the first time when gods walked with men. The Sumerians wrote of Eridu, the city built before kingship descended from heaven. The Mayans told of a stone that sang with the voice of the stars. And yet, none of these myths stand alone. They all seem to point toward a singular truth, a central origin that was deliberately obscured. It is as if humanity remembers this temple not through history, but through the dream of it. Modern historians dismiss such connections as the imagination of pattern seekers, but the patterns persist. Ancient texts in different languages share identical symbols: spirals, eyes, suns enclosed within squares, all recurring motifs that trace back to no known civilization. Some researchers believe these marks were left intentionally, breadcrumbs leading to the temple's hidden location. Others insist they were warnings to stay away. The sands themselves seem complicit in the concealment. Satellite imagery has shown geometric anomalies beneath vast deserts, perfectly symmetrical shapes stretching for miles, then vanishing overnight beneath the moving dunes. In 1936, a British pilot reported seeing a shadow of impossible geometry in the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter of Arabia. When he returned days later with a team, the site had vanished, leaving only unbroken desert. His official report was quietly buried in archives, and his name disappeared from the record soon after. But the whispers persisted. Bedouin tribes still speak of a silent valley, where compasses spin and the air hums faintly at dusk. Travelers who stray too far hear chanting in languages unknown. The few who return describe seeing faint lights beneath the sand, like constellations reversed, stars buried within the earth. Their stories are often dismissed as mirages, symptoms of heat and solitude. Yet in every account, the tone is the same, all mixed with terror. If such a place did exist, why was it hidden? Why would the world erase it? Some say it was to protect humanity from knowledge so vast it could unmake our understanding of reality. Others claim it was an act of power, that rulers, both earthly and divine, sought to monopolize the wisdom stored within those walls. Ancient inscriptions found in scattered ruins speak of the veil of the sun, a decree ordering that the temple be swallowed by the mother who bore it. In other words, the earth itself was commanded to reclaim it. And so, over centuries, sand became scripture. The desert became the guardian of a truth too potent to be spoken. Yet the past is never truly silent. It hums beneath our feet, vibrating through forgotten myths, encoded in the geometry of temples and cathedrals built millennia later. The Parthenon, the Great Pyramid, the Temple of Angkor, all resonate with the same mathematical ratios found in texts describing the vanished temple. Coincidence, perhaps. Or perhaps the architects remembered something they were never meant to. In the 20th century, a handful of scholars began to notice these correlations. They spoke of the pattern of divine measure, a network of sites aligned with celestial markers, each one a fragment of the same forgotten design. Their research met swift resistance. Funding disappeared, records were sealed, and those who persisted found their reputations dismantled. Yet their findings remain. The ratios, the alignments, the evidence of a knowledge older than civilization itself. One of these scholars, Dr. Helena Dmar, wrote before her mysterious disappearance in 1972, "The temple was never lost. We were. The structure was only a reflection of the thing buried within the human mind. When we turned away from it, the sands rose to fill the void." Her words were dismissed as poetic madness, but they hold a strange resonance. The idea that the temple may not have vanished physically, but consciously. That humanity, in its pursuit of progress, chose to forget. As night falls over the desert, the wind carries a whisper that sounds almost like words. They say if you listen closely, you can hear the pulse of something ancient beneath the dunes, steady, patient, waiting. Perhaps the temple still exists, not as ruin, but as presence. Perhaps it lingers beneath our world like a memory too heavy to hold. And maybe, just maybe, those who dream of it are already standing at its gates. History records discoveries, but this is the story of one that never officially occurred. The temple that should have rewritten the chronicles of civilization somehow slipped through the cracks of time, leaving behind only fragments, strange journals, missing maps, and the uneasy silence of institutions that pretended nothing was ever found. It is as if the world agreed, collectively and quietly, to forget. The earliest reference to its supposed discovery comes from a Babylonian clay tablet, cracked and eroded, found in 1889 near the ruins of Sippar. The inscription, translated imperfectly, tells of a place where the stars met the earth and men spoke with the shining ones. The scribe wrote that a group of seekers, astronomer priests, ventured into a forbidden region beyond the desert of shadows and found the house that breathes. The account ends abruptly. The final line is smeared, as if wiped intentionally. No follow-up tablets have ever been located. Then there is the case of the Persian explorer, Marduk Aurahim, who in 1045 AD recorded a journey across the southern Arabian desert. His travelogue, The Path of the Hidden Sun, describes an encounter with ruins of impossible proportion, half buried in gold-colored sand, emitting what he called a light that had no source. He wrote of pillars carved with symbols that no one could read, and of a single doorway that seemed to open into nothingness. He returned to Baghdad, feverish and half-blind. Within months, he was dead, his writings confiscated by the Caliph scholars and never seen again. Only a few pages survived in private collections, pages filled with disjointed sketches of geometric patterns that modern researchers identify as precursors to sacred geometry. Centuries later, in the age of European exploration, reports began to surface once again. In 1799, a French military engineer stationed in Egypt, named Etienne Lefebvre, supposedly led an expedition south into the Nubian desert, following rumors of a ruin that hums. His personal journal, recovered decades later, mentions finding a structure whose walls reflected the stars even in daylight. He described feeling vibrations through the ground, like the heartbeat of the planet. On his return journey, his entire caravan vanished. Only one camel was ever found, kneeling in the sand, its rider missing, its cargo empty. The French archives list the incident under the category expedition non-conformé. No official record acknowledges the ruins. What makes these accounts so disturbing is not their content, but their pattern. Again and again, explorers claim to have found something monumental, only for all trace of their findings to evaporate. In each case, correspondence disappears, Artifacts are misplaced, and witnesses either die unexpectedly or are discredited as frauds. It is as though an invisible hand moves through time, erasing every attempt to reveal the temple's existence. In 1897, British archaeologist Charles Halley wrote a brief paper to the Royal Society titled On the Anomalous Structures of the Empty Quarter. He described aerial formations, visible only from above, that seemed to outline a perfect geometric pattern in the desert sands. He called it the eye beneath the earth. Within weeks, his paper was withdrawn. Halley resigned his post and vanished from public life. 2 years later, his brother received a letter from him, mailed from Cairo. It contained a single line, "They found it again, and they will bury it again." As the modern age approached, the erasure only grew more systematic. By the early 20th century, the academic community treated any mention of the temple as pseudoscience. Yet quietly, within classified circles, interest persisted. In 1923, Dr. Howard Litton, a linguist and field archaeologist, claimed to have discovered photographic evidence of pre-dynastic inscriptions deep beneath the Sahara. The photographs, reportedly taken using an experimental infrared technique, showed symbols resembling those of the so-called First Language. Before Litton could publish his findings, his home and laboratory burned down in an unexplained fire. All negatives were lost. His surviving colleagues refused to speak publicly, citing national security concerns. Then, during World War II, strange reports began circulating among military intelligence networks. Allied pilots flying over North Africa occasionally noted optical distortions and luminous ground anomalies. In one classified RAF report, declassified only in the late 1980s, a pilot described seeing a massive, faintly glowing formation that appeared for seconds before dissolving into desert haze. The coordinates provided in that report correspond to a region later closed off for geological research. No public expedition has been permitted there since. If this were merely a pattern of coincidence, it might be dismissed. But in 1957, a CIA document, later leaked under the codename Project Seraphim, referenced an ancient energy site of non-human origin buried under layers of sedimentary rock. The language was clinical, stripped of myth, yet the implications were staggering. The document suggested that the site emitted anomalous electromagnetic signatures capable of interfering with radio communication. It recommended that further exploration be indefinitely postponed to avoid geopolitical instability. Whether that site was the vanished temple or something else entirely remains uncertain. But the phrasing aligns too perfectly with earlier myths to ignore. Even in the modern era, attempts to rediscover the supposed ruins meet with inexplicable obstacles. GPS systems fail. Satellite data becomes corrupted. Entire expeditions disappear from record. In 2011, a private research team led by Dr. Isabel Murad announced a project to locate a symmetrical formation beneath the dunes near the Egypt-Sudan border. Their last transmission mentioned finding the entrance. After that, silence. No recovery teams were ever dispatched, and all online references to the expedition have since been scrubbed. It is as if the temple itself resists discovery, as if it exists in a liminal state. The question of who built the vanished temple is perhaps the most haunting of all. For if the temple truly existed, if it once stood in the blinding heart of the desert, then it was created by hands unlike any known to history. Every culture speaks of ancient builders who came before humanity as we know it, the keepers of a wisdom so vast it bordered on divine. And though their names change, Anunnaki, Nephilim, the Shining Ones, their signature remains carved across the world in stones that defy time, gravity, and logic. The vanished temple, according to legend, was the culmination of their craft, a place where the laws of matter were bent into harmony with the laws of spirit. Consider the oldest known monuments, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, rising from 10,000-year-old soil with carvings so refined they suggest forgotten technologies. Or Baalbek in Lebanon, where single stones weighing over 1,200 tons rest precisely aligned, as if cut and lifted by invisible hands. Mainstream archaeology struggles to explain them, offering theories of ropes, ramps, and primitive tools. Yet anyone who has stood before those monoliths feels the absurdity of such explanations. They were built by a civilization that understood forces we can barely measure, let alone replicate. Could these same builders have constructed the lost temple, then buried it deliberately to protect what it contained? In the myths of Egypt, there are hints of such a race. The priesthood of Thoth spoke of the Zep Tepi, the first time when the gods came from the stars and raised the temples of light. These beings were said to carry rods of resonance, tuning instruments that could soften stone and shift mass through vibration. Their temples were not mere sanctuaries, but machines, architectural instruments designed to stabilize the flow between heaven and earth. The ancient hieroglyph for building combines the symbols for sound and balance. It was never construction in the physical sense. It was harmonization. If the vanished temple followed this same principle, it was not built of ordinary materials. Descriptions from scattered sources mention walls that shimmered, as though breathing, surfaces that absorbed light yet reflected the stars. Some modern theorists suggest that such accounts may describe piezoelectric stone, crystals capable of generating energy under pressure. The temple's design, they argue, could have converted the planet's natural vibrations into usable power, spiritual, electromagnetic, or both. Its builders, whoever they were, mastered the art of tuning architecture to the frequency of creation. An ancient Sumerian cylinder seal, often overlooked, depicts a stepped structure surrounded by wave-like engravings. Scholars translate its caption as the house that sings. To the untrained eye, it resembles an early ziggurat, but the pattern around it suggests oscillation, as though the building itself emitted sound. This motif recurs across distant cultures. The Maya's Kukulkan temple, which produces the chirp of a sacred bird when clapped before. The hypogeum of Malta, whose resonance amplifies the human voice to unnerving degrees. And the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber, whose dimensions perfectly correspond to harmonic intervals of sound waves. These are not coincidences. They are remnants of a science forgotten. Imagine, then, a civilization whose architecture could speak, whose stones could remember the song of the cosmos. The vanished temple, according to this theory, was the grand orchestra of that forgotten world. It was designed not only to align with the stars, but to resonate with them, forming a living bridge between cosmic and earthly energy. When ancient texts refer to it as the heart that breathes, perhaps they describe not metaphor, but mechanism, a building alive with vibration, pulsing in time with the planet. Who were its builders? Some point to the lost civilization of Atlantis, said to have perished beneath the waves after misusing its knowledge. Others to the mysterious culture of Kem, a proto-Egyptian society wiped out in an event of global cataclysm. There are even those who suggest the temple was the work of beings not entirely human, descendants of star voyagers who came to seed wisdom upon the earth, as told in every myth from the Dogon of Mali to the Hopi of the American Southwest. Each legend describes luminous teachers descending from the heavens, imparting geometry, agriculture, and law before disappearing into the earth. Perhaps they did not leave at all. Perhaps they built the temple as a vault of their essence, a resonance chamber to preserve their consciousness through time. Skeptics will say such ideas border on fantasy, but the evidence left in stone speaks louder than skepticism. How do you explain the perfect cuts of megaliths at Pumapunku in Bolivia, where granite blocks fit together with laser-like precision? Or the global distribution of pyramidal structures built independently by cultures separated by oceans and millennia? The mathematical constants governing their construction, pi, phi, the golden ratio, are identical. It is as if humanity inherited a memory of a design too perfect to forget. A handful of scholars have dared to propose that these structures were the fingerprints of one unified world culture, the civilization before the flood. Their mastery of geometry and resonance was so advanced that they built not merely for shelter, but for immortality. Their temples encoded the frequencies of the human soul, preserving them long after their creators vanished. The lost temple in the desert, then, may have been their final masterpiece, the central archive of a species that transcended extinction through architecture. There are ancient records that support this idea in fragments. The Egyptian Book of the Hidden Chamber speaks of the place where the builders sealed the breath of Ra, to awaken again when the stars return to their first position. The Mayan Popol Vuh refers to the house beneath the dust where the word of creation sleeps. The Vedic texts call it Agni's womb, a hidden center of light waiting for the age when humans could once again hear the voice of truth. Across continents, the message is the same. Something was built, hidden, and forgotten, yet not destroyed. Perhaps the builders foresaw what was coming, a cycle of collapse, ignorance, and rebirth. Knowing that humanity would lose its connection to the divine, they concealed their greatest work beneath the sands, encoded in myth, awaiting rediscovery by those who would one day understand. The vanished temple was not lost by accident. It was hidden by design. And maybe, just maybe, that design continues to guide us. The same mathematical ratios appear in our DNA, our music, even the orbital patterns of planets. It is as though the builders left behind a language too subtle to erase, a cosmic reminder humming beneath our reality. Every monument that still stands, every legend that still echoes, is a fragment of their legacy. The vanished temple was their final message, a monument to what humanity once was, and what it may yet become again when it remembers how to build not only with stone, but with harmony, intention, and soul.
The lost codex, it is said, was never meant to be easily read. Its power lay not only in the knowledge it contained, but in the way that knowledge was encoded. From the earliest fragments to whispered accounts across civilizations, one thing is clear. The codex spoke a language designed to be impenetrable to the uninitiated. Its symbols, diagrams, and cryptic phrases functioned both as keys and barriers, ensuring that only those with the proper understanding could access its transformative wisdom. Ciphers have always fascinated humanity. In the context of the codex, they were not merely tools of secrecy, but integral to the transmission of knowledge itself. Unlike simple encryption, the codex's language is believed to have combined mathematics, astronomy, and symbolic representation into a cohesive system. A diagram could simultaneously represent a star map, a philosophical principle, and an alchemical instruction. A single glyph might carry multiple layers of meaning, only decipherable by understanding its place within a vast, interconnected web of knowledge. To read the codex without comprehension was to risk misunderstanding, or worse, misuse, its truths. Comparisons to other mysterious manuscripts help illustrate its complexity. The Voynich manuscript, for example, has baffled linguists, cryptographers, and historians for centuries. Its strange symbols, botanical illustrations, and inexplicable diagrams evoke a language that is both alien and familiar. Similarly, the codex is thought to employ a system of communication that transcends conventional language. Every page, every line, may have been deliberately constructed to preserve knowledge while concealing it from casual observers. Unlike ordinary writing, the codex demanded patience, intuition, and initiation, blending intellectual rigor with spiritual insight. Many ancient cultures had traditions of encoding wisdom. In Egypt, sacred texts were often written in hieroglyphs that conveyed multiple meanings simultaneously. In India, Vedic chants embedded mathematical and cosmological knowledge within poetic verse, a method that ensured preservation across generations while remaining obscured to outsiders. In the West, alchemical manuscripts employed intricate symbolism, requiring initiates to decode their layered meanings. The Codex appears to be the culmination of these traditions, a manuscript whose very structure was designed to maintain secrecy while safeguarding knowledge for those capable of interpreting it. The use of visual symbolism in the codex may have been particularly sophisticated. Geometric patterns, star charts, and diagrams are said to populate its pages, each carrying encoded information about cosmology, human origins, or even consciousness itself. A circle might represent a celestial cycle, a philosophical principle, and a process for spiritual transformation simultaneously. Lines, angles, and proportions could encode numeric systems or temporal cycles. Understanding these symbols required not only intellectual ability but also a deep awareness of the natural and metaphysical worlds. The codex, therefore, was more than text. It was a multidimensional map of knowledge. Language, however, is only one layer of the codex's protective design. Its materials, arrangement, and even physical structure may have contributed to its secrecy. Some scholars speculate that the manuscript employed color coding, invisible inks, or even chemical treatments that revealed information only under certain conditions. The choice of parchment, ink, and binding could have contained additional clues or restrictions, making the codex a living puzzle rather than a simple repository of information. Every aspect of its creation, from the form to the content, was likely deliberate, intended to guide initiates while deterring the unprepared. The codex's language also reflects a philosophical principle. Knowledge, in its purest form, is transformative, and transformation requires effort. By encoding its wisdom in complex symbols and ciphers, the codex ensured that only those willing to dedicate themselves fully to understanding could access its insights. This is a recurring theme among secret societies and esoteric traditions. Knowledge is power, but untempered power is dangerous. The codex, through its cryptic design, enforced discipline, patience, and discernment, ensuring that revelation came gradually and responsibly. Deciphering the codex requires more than modern analytical tools. It demands intuition, pattern recognition, and an ability to perceive connections across disparate domains. Linguists, mathematicians, and historians may provide frameworks for analysis, but fully unlocking its secrets likely requires a holistic understanding, melding science, philosophy, art, and spirituality. Each symbol, each arrangement, functions as part of an elaborate network of meaning, a design that challenges the linear thinking typically employed in conventional scholarship. Even today, fragments attributed to the codex reveal hints of its intricate system. Scholars who have examined these pieces speak of patterns that defy ordinary explanation, sequences that mirror celestial alignments, diagrams reminiscent of sacred geometry, and annotations that seem to encode moral, philosophical, and scientific knowledge simultaneously. These surviving fragments tantalize researchers with glimpses of a profound intelligence, suggesting that the codex was not merely a book, but a vessel of holistic understanding, deliberately crafted to preserve the deepest truths across time. The language of secrets, then, is central to the codex's mystery. It illustrates why the manuscript was both invaluable and dangerous. Its complexity guaranteed that only a few could interpret it accurately, yet it also ensured its survival. The codex's very design reflects a profound understanding of knowledge preservation. The deeper the mystery, the more likely it is to endure. And as we explore further, this language of symbols, ciphers, and encoded wisdom will serve as our guide, revealing not only the knowledge of the codex but also the ingenuity and foresight of those who created it. By studying these symbols and understanding their purpose, we begin to approach the codex not as a static artifact, but as a dynamic system of communication, a bridge between civilizations, eras, and minds. The language of secrets is the key to unlocking the lost codex, and through it, we glimpse the possibility of knowledge so profound that it could illuminate the origins of humanity, the cosmos, and consciousness itself. The codex challenges us, daring us to see beyond the obvious, to decode the hidden, and to recognize that understanding may demand both intellect and intuition. For centuries, whispers of the Forbidden Chamber have haunted the edges of myth and memory. Hidden deep within the vanished temple, it was said to be the heart of all mystery, the point where the physical and the metaphysical merged into one. According to fragments found in both Mesopotamian and Egyptian texts, the chamber was not built for worship, nor for rulers or gods, but for initiation. Only those deemed worthy could enter, and even then, few ever returned unchanged. Its entrance was sealed by codes that modern science would call impossible, doors that opened not with hands, but with vibration, frequencies produced by the human voice in perfect resonance with the stone itself. The oldest surviving reference to this chamber appears in the Emerald Codex of Thoth, a text scholars consider apocryphal. It describes a room that hears, a vault that remembers, where thought takes form and light becomes truth. Within this place, the initiate would confront not an idol or priest, but his own shadow, the unfiltered reflection of his inner being. The ancients believed that the temple's architecture itself acted as a mirror of the cosmos, and the forbidden chamber was the axis mundi, the central point where heaven, earth, and the underworld converged. To stand within it was to stand within the eye of creation. Those who entered were not ordinary seekers. They were philosophers, astronomers, mystics, and kings, men who had glimpsed the limits of knowledge and sought the infinite beyond it. In the ritual known as the weighing of light, initiates would descend into total darkness, guided only by a single resonant tone. Their hearts would be tested not by words, but by frequency. If the chamber accepted them, the darkness would respond, vibrating in harmony with their pulse. Those who failed were said to vanish completely, absorbed by the chamber's silence, as if erased from existence. In one suppressed manuscript discovered near Thebes, the chamber is described as an ark of consciousness. It was lined with crystalline material that could amplify thought. The initiate, once sealed within, was said to experience visions not from the past or future, but from outside time altogether. The text speaks of beholding the face of truth unmasked, of the mind breaking the mirror and seeing the light that stands behind creation. Such passages are easily dismissed as metaphors for enlightenment, but certain details, like the description of the chamber's dimensions matching harmonic ratios, suggest a technological component behind the mysticism. Modern researchers have long speculated that the chamber functioned as a kind of ancient frequency chamber designed to alter brain states and open perception to higher planes of awareness. Infrasound frequencies, for instance, are known to induce visions, fear, and a sense of presence. Could the builders of the vanished temple have discovered this effect thousands of years ago and harnessed it deliberately? If so, the forbidden chamber was not just a room. It was a consciousness machine, a bridge between dimensions. The few surviving depictions of it show an oval-shaped hall resembling the inside of an egg, symbol of rebirth and cosmic origin. Around its perimeter were 12 niches, each containing an object described as a vessel of memory. Some researchers believe these were crystalline tablets or disks capable of storing data, not electronically, but vibrationally. Each vessel, the texts claim, held the essence of an age, the knowledge of civilizations long before recorded history. Together, they formed the memory of the earth. The chamber, then, was both archive and altar, preserving the legacy of those who came before. Yet, in every story, there is warning. Ancient sources agree that the chamber's power was not meant for the uninitiated. One Babylonian fragment tells of a ruler who forced his way into the sacred vault, seeking to command its secrets. Within moments, his attendants heard a sound like the tearing of fabric and found only ashes where he had stood. Another account, from the later Hermetic texts, describes a novice who entered unprepared and emerged speaking in tongues, his mind fractured by what he had seen. These legends serve as cautionary echoes. The chamber did not punish, it revealed. And revelation, for the unready, is destruction. Over time, the guardians of this knowledge, those who had survived the initiation, formed secret brotherhoods sworn to protect the chamber's existence. The earliest of these may have evolved into the priesthoods of Egypt, the Magi of Persia, and later, the esoteric orders of the West. Their symbols, the eye within the triangle, the serpent consuming its tail, the winged sun, are said to originate from the murals on the chamber's inner walls. These emblems were not mere art, they were keys. Each represented a principle of cosmic law, encoded to remind the initiated of truths that words could no longer express. When the temple itself was lost, whether to time or to deliberate concealment, so too was access to the forbidden chamber. Some accounts say the builders sealed it beneath shifting sands, guarded by traps of light and sound, fields of energy invisible to the human eye but fatal to those who approached with greed. Others believe the chamber was not destroyed at all, but phased out of our physical dimension, hidden within a fold of space-time that only reveals itself under precise cosmic alignment. This may explain the recurring theme of the stars returning to their place before the chamber can reopen. In the 20th century, there were rumors that certain archaeological teams, operating under secrecy, rediscovered part of the temple's foundation. Strange electromagnetic anomalies were recorded in an uncharted region of the Sahara, where instruments failed and compasses spun erratically. Local Bedouins spoke of the place that hums at night, where the air itself vibrated. Though no public confirmation followed, several researchers associated with the dig later disappeared or refused to speak of their findings. It is said that one of them, shortly before vanishing, sent a final message containing only a single phrase, "The chamber is awake." If true, such discoveries would suggest that the Forbidden Chamber is not merely a myth but a dormant artifact, one that may still exist beneath the desert, pulsing faintly like a buried heart. What might happen if it were reopened in our age of technology and hubris? Would humanity repeat the cycle of those who came before, or would it at last prove worthy of the light it once lost? Perhaps that is why the legends persist, as both prophecy and warning. The chamber was never meant to be found easily. Its secrets were guarded not to keep power from mankind, but to protect mankind from power it could not yet bear. Every age that rediscovers the story faces the same choice: seek the chamber for dominion, or seek it for understanding. In the end, the Forbidden Chamber stands as a metaphor and a mystery alike. It may exist beneath the sands or within the soul, but its purpose remains the same: to confront the seeker with truth unfiltered, to dissolve illusion, and to remind humanity that light, no matter how divine, casts the deepest shadow. For the chamber's true door, the text's whisper, opens not through stone or code, but through silence, the moment when thought stops, and one becomes the vibration itself.
Long before the temple vanished beneath the desert, it was said to have been built by a brotherhood of beings not entirely human, architects who walked between the realms of gods and mortals. Ancient traditions refer to them by many names: the Shining Ones, the Keepers of the Dawn, the Sons of the Serpent. Every culture that inherited fragments of their legacy described them in eerily similar terms: tall, radiant figures who possessed knowledge of the stars, mathematics, and the forces that bound the universe together. They were not worshipped as deities, but revered as teachers. Yet the deeper one studies their myth, the clearer it becomes that these architects were not simply builders of stone. They were engineers of consciousness. According to the Chronicles of Ubar, an obscure pre-Islamic manuscript discovered in 1897, the architects came from the place where the horizon touches itself, a poetic description scholars interpret as a metaphor for another dimension. The text states they descended during a time of great silence, when the earth had been purified by fire and water, a clear allusion to the cataclysmic events that erased the previous age. Their purpose, it claimed, was to rebuild civilization using principles aligned with the order of heaven. They possessed no tools as we understand them. Their temples rose through vibration, their stones shaped not by hand, but by resonance and sound. The stone obeyed their will, the manuscript reads, for they knew the frequency of creation. This idea of shaping matter through sound is echoed in countless myths. The Hindu Shabda Brahman, the Egyptian concept of Heka, and the Hebrew notion of the word as divine creative force all point to the same mystery: that reality itself may be a vibration, and that to control it is to command existence. The architects, it seems, were masters of this law. Their greatest creation, the vanished temple, was not merely a monument but a resonant device, a living geometry capable of harmonizing the frequencies of Earth and cosmos. The Greeks later mythologized them as the Hyperboreans, a race who lived beyond the north wind, untouched by decay. The Mayans remembered them as the Its, those who make things by sacred measure. And in Sumerian tablets, they appear as the Apkallu, the seven sages sent by the god Enki to teach humanity the arts of civilization. Each version may describe the same lineage, refracted through the cultural lens of different ages. Yet in every retelling, their story ends the same way, with disappearance. Why do they vanish? Some traditions say they completed their task and returned to the stars. Others suggest they were overthrown by their own students, who sought to use their knowledge for dominion rather than harmony. A fragmentary text found near Mount Sinai describes a war of the builders, in which the original architects sealed their knowledge within the temple to prevent its corruption. They divided the key among 12 initiates, each sworn to protect a fragment of the design until mankind was ready to rediscover it. That oath, scholars believe, gave rise to the later mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and eventually the secret societies of medieval Europe. One of the most fascinating correlations lies in the architectural codes shared across distant civilizations. The same mathematical ratios, the golden mean, the sacred cubit, the constant of pi, appear in structures from Giza to Teotihuacan to Stonehenge. Even more perplexing is that these ratios align with frequencies found in the human brain and the natural harmonics of the planet. How could cultures separated by oceans and millennia have known this? Unless, as some esoteric historians propose, they inherited the blueprint from a common source, the architects of the hidden light. Archaeological anomalies strengthen this theory. Megalithic blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted with laser-like precision, subterranean tunnels linking sites thousands of miles apart, and the recurring symbol of the winged orb, all hint at an intelligence far more advanced than conventional timelines allow. Some researchers, like the controversial physicist Dr. Ilyas Voronov, have argued that these builders possessed a unified field technology, a method of manipulating energy and matter through harmonic resonance. Voronov's final paper, The Geometry of Ascension, suggested that the temple was not constructed as shelter, but as a portal, a stabilizing anchor between dimensions. Days after publishing, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances, his notes confiscated by unnamed authorities. Legends tell us the architects never died. They simply withdrew from sight, retreating into the hidden kingdoms beneath the earth or beyond the veil of perception. Occult writings from the Renaissance speak of the Brotherhood of the Inner Sun, an order claiming direct descent from the original builders. Their members were said to guard ancient manuscripts, crystals, and devices capable of awakening dormant aspects of human consciousness. The Hermeticist Giordano Bruno, who wrote of infinite worlds and luminous teachers, may have drawn from this same source before his execution in 1600. His writings hinted that enlightenment was not about faith, but about frequency, the act of aligning one's inner light with that of the cosmos. But beneath these mystical layers lies something even more unsettling. Hidden in 19th century Freemasonic archives are references to the Code of the Builders, a document that allegedly contains the harmonic signature of the vanished temple. It is said to map the energy grid of the planet, a web of ley lines connecting ancient sites across continents. According to these texts, the architects designed the temple not in isolation, but as the keystone of a planetary network, a system meant to maintain balance between cosmic forces. When the temple fell, the grid destabilized, leading to the environmental and spiritual decay that followed. What if this is more than myth? Modern geophysical studies have discovered anomalies where these sacred sites align, fluctuations in magnetic fields, unexplained bursts of energy, and sonic vibrations detectable only through specialized instruments. The Earth, it seems, does hum, and some places hum louder than others. Could it be that the architects engineered this resonance intentionally, embedding their design into the living body of the planet itself? If so, the temple was not lost. It is still active, operating invisibly, waiting for the right frequency to reactivate its core. There are rumors, unconfirmed but persistent, that in 2003, a classified European expedition attempted to locate one of these nodes deep in the Libyan desert. Satellite imaging detected unnatural heat signatures beneath the dunes, arranged in concentric circles. The team reported electromagnetic interference, and, within hours, communication ceased. Only one blurry image was recovered, a faint golden glow, circular and pulsing like a heartbeat. The file was labeled HL6, presumably short for hidden light. The architect's story, then, may not be confined to the past. Some esoteric traditions believe their return is cyclical, that every few thousand years, when a world stands on the brink of collapse, they reappear to guide a chosen few toward restoration. Others interpret their presence symbolically, as the awakening of an ancient intelligence dormant within humanity itself. The temple, the chamber, the light, all reflections of a greater process unfolding within the collective mind. If so, the architects of the hidden light are not just figures of myth. They are archetypes of memory, reminding us that creation and destruction are twin forces forever intertwined. They built not only from stone but from consciousness, weaving geometry, sound, and spirit into a single living language. And perhaps, somewhere in the silence beneath the sands, that language is still being spoken, waiting for those who remember how to listen. Across every surviving fragment of the vanished temple's legend, one detail persists. Its stones were said to speak, not in words, but in resonance, tones and vibrations that carried meaning beyond language. To the uninitiated, these were simple rocks, shaped and stacked into impossible symmetry. But to those who knew how to listen, they were a living scripture, each block humming with the memory of its creation. The ancients called this the language of the stones, a tongue that only the soul could understand. Modern science would call it acoustics, frequency, or harmonic resonance. Yet none of these terms truly capture the strange intelligence attributed to the temple's construction, a design so intricate it seemed alive. Legends claim that when the temple still stood, its walls emitted low, melodic vibrations during twilight, as though responding to the position of the stars. Pilgrims described hearing whispers within the stone corridors, voices that shifted with their thoughts. One account from an Assyrian tablet tells of a priest who stood before the central altar and heard his own heartbeat echoed back, amplified and transformed into music. It was as if the temple itself breathed, he wrote. The walls were awake. What he described aligns curiously with modern studies on resonant architecture, structures designed to channel specific frequencies through geometry. Certain ratios amplify sound waves in ways that can affect human consciousness, inducing calm, awe, or even visions. The question is, how could ancient builders have known this? Recent discoveries hint that they might have. At sites like Saqqara in Egypt, researchers have found that some tomb chambers resonate perfectly at 110 Hz, a frequency that can cause deep meditative states and alter brain activity. The same resonance has been recorded in ancient temples of Malta, Peru, and India. This frequency appears to have been deliberately chosen. Some physicists believe it can influence the human nervous system, synchronizing it with the natural electromagnetic rhythm of the planet. The builders of the vanished temple may have been the first to master this knowledge, embedding it directly into their architecture so that the structure itself became a teacher. Carvings from nearby ruins, believed to be from the same era, depict figures standing before large, tuning fork-like instruments. These artifacts, known as resonators, were said to be tools of communication with the stone. According to the writings of Dr. Helena Dmar, whose research into sonic archaeology was suppressed after her disappearance, the resonators emitted tones that could make massive stones levitate or vibrate into alignment. They did not lift the stones, she wrote in one of her last papers. They sang them into place. The phrase was dismissed as poetic metaphor, but when scientists recreated similar frequencies in controlled experiments, they found that sound could indeed move particles, sand, and even small stones into geometric formations, a phenomenon known as cymatics. If such principles were scaled up, it could explain how ancient civilizations transported and shaped megaliths weighing hundreds of tons. More importantly, it suggests that the temple's language was vibrational, a symphony of geometry, light, and sound. Each stone was tuned, each chamber harmonized to a particular frequency. When activated by chanting or ritual tones, the entire structure would resonate as one, creating a field of energy strong enough to affect the consciousness of those within. This was not just architecture, it was communication. The stones themselves were transmitters, and the temple was the message. Ancient texts describe the singers of the dawn, initiates who had learned to vocalize in frequencies that matched the stone's natural resonance. During the rituals, their voices would merge with the temple's vibration, forming what witnesses called the language of the gods. No written record of this language survives, but its traces appear in later cultures. In the sacred chants of Tibet, the toning rituals of Egypt, and even the Gregorian harmonics of medieval monasteries. All share one peculiar trait: tones designed not to entertain, but to alter the mind. The ancients believed that when sound aligned with intention, it could reprogram reality itself. Archaeological teams have noted something equally peculiar. Many ancient structures, including the Great Pyramid, were constructed from limestone and granite, materials rich in quartz. Quartz is piezoelectric, meaning it converts pressure into electricity and vice versa. In other words, the stones of these temples were natural energy converters. When exposed to vibration, whether from chanting, footsteps, or even the Earth's tectonic hum, they would generate electromagnetic fields. Imagine, then, a temple built entirely from such material, tuned to resonate with the Earth's frequency, its walls alive with invisible energy. The voice of the stones would not be metaphorical at all. It would be literal vibration, humming through the body of anyone who entered. One surviving carving found near the vanished temple's supposed location shows a priest pressing his ear to the wall, listening. Behind him, a series of wavy lines rise upward, ending in a symbol resembling an eye surrounded by concentric circles. Some interpret this as a representation of sound waves awakening perception, an ancient depiction of how vibration opens the inner sight. If true, then the temple was not built for worship but for transformation. Its rituals were not prayers to deities, but dialogues with the structure itself. Throughout history, remnants of this language have resurfaced in unlikely places. The Hebrew Kabbalists spoke of the letters of creation, vibrations that formed the fabric of the world. The Pythagoreans taught that music mirrored the architecture of the cosmos, and that to know harmony was to know God. Even in modern times, physicists describe the universe as a vast field of oscillating strings, a cosmic symphony in which matter itself is frozen music. Could it be that the ancients knew this truth long before science gave it words? Long before the temple vanished, its teachings were said to be hidden within a symbol, the serpent coiled around the sun. Known to the ancients as the Serpent Code, it was a cipher of cosmic knowledge, a map of creation disguised as myth. To most, the serpent represented temptation or evil, but in the deeper currents of ancient wisdom, it symbolized transformation, renewal, and the cyclical nature of life itself. The serpent sheds its skin as the universe sheds its ages, and within that act lies a secret older than civilization: the power of evolution through death and rebirth. The earliest depictions of this code appear on artifacts from Sumer, predating written history. A single serpent spirals around a disc, half black, half gold. Scholars once dismissed it as primitive art, but when the symbol appeared again in Egyptian, Mayan, and Vedic carvings separated by oceans and centuries, it became clear that this was not coincidence. The same design emerges in every ancient culture: a serpent encircling a radiant orb or a winged eye. The meaning, though obscured, points to something universal: knowledge passed down by the same hidden architects who built the vanished temple. According to Hermetic tradition, the serpent represents energy in motion, the cosmic force that animates all living things. In Sanskrit, it is called Kundalini, the coiled energy that sleeps at the base of the spine, waiting to rise through the chakras to reunite with divine consciousness. The Egyptians knew it as Uraeus, the serpent of wisdom worn on the brow of pharaohs, symbolizing enlightenment. In Mesoamerican myth, it appears as Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who descended from the stars to teach mankind. All these myths, though separated by continents, tell the same story. A celestial intelligence encoded its knowledge into symbols and left them scattered across the world, waiting for humanity to remember. The serpent was more than a metaphor. It was an instruction. Its spiral form mirrors the structure of DNA, the double helix that carries the blueprint of life. This resemblance has led some researchers to suggest that the ancients possessed a form of biological knowledge far ahead of their time. The Codex of Eridu, a fragmentary text found near the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, describes the luminous coils of creation and the builders who sang the pattern of life into the clay. If true, it means the serpent code may not have been symbolic at all, but a literal representation of how energy, vibration, and geometry shaped the living world. When the temple was still intact, its inner sanctum was said to contain a massive relief of a serpent carved in gold, winding around a sphere of lapis lazuli. This depiction, known as the Eye of the Serpent, glowed under certain conditions, as though lit from within. Some accounts describe how initiates would stand before it during rituals, chanting harmonic tones that caused the walls to vibrate. As the vibration intensified, the serpent's eyes would appear to open, casting beams of light across the chamber. To the priests, this was the moment of revelation, the merging of matter and consciousness. The serpent was not an idol to be worshipped. It was a mirror showing mankind its divine nature. Yet not everyone understood or respected the message. As centuries passed, the symbol of the serpent became corrupted. When power shifted from the temples of light to the empires of control, the code was reinterpreted as something dangerous. The same energy that could awaken also had the power to destroy, and those who feared it sought to suppress its use. In early biblical texts, the serpent becomes the deceiver, the enemy of divine order. What had once symbolized enlightenment was recast as rebellion. The forbidden fruit was knowledge itself, and humanity was condemned for seeking it. But secret orders never forgot. The Gnostics, the Ophites, and later the Rosicrucians preserved fragments of the original teachings. They believed that the serpent represented the hidden current of wisdom that flows beneath all religions, connecting the divine spark in man to the cosmic source. Their writings speak of the fire within the coil, a spiritual force capable of awakening dormant abilities, intuition, vision, and memory of past worlds. In their rituals, serpentine patterns were traced in air and fire, symbolizing the ascent of consciousness. The same spiral motion can be found carved into megaliths in Ireland, Greece, and Turkey, always aligned with solar or stellar pathways, as if marking the serpent's celestial journey. Modern science may have inadvertently rediscovered this ancient code. The electromagnetic fields generated by the human body, particularly along the spine, move in wave-like spirals identical to those found in energy patterns of galaxies and DNA strands. This fractal repetition, from the microscopic to the cosmic, suggests a universal geometry, the same one encoded in the serpent symbol. Physicist Nassim Haramein once proposed that consciousness itself is a toroidal field, spinning endlessly like a serpent consuming its tail. In myth, that serpent is the Ouroboros, the eternal cycle of creation and destruction. The ancients did not invent it as myth. They perceived it as reality. Hidden texts found in Alexandria, burned during the library's destruction, were rumored to contain references to this serpent circuits, lines of energy that encircle the earth. These circuits, described as luminous veins, connect sacred sites across continents. The vanished temple, it was said, stood at the heart of one such nexus, where the serpent's head and tail met. This location, according to legend, was the planet's energetic zero point, a place where heaven and earth aligned perfectly. The serpent encircling the world was not metaphorical, but literal, a living current of energy looping through the planet's magnetic field. When explorers and mystics of the 19th century attempted to trace these energy lines, what they called dragon paths or ley lines, they discovered uncanny alignments between ancient temples, pyramids, and stone circles. Many of these sites form a spiraling pattern when mapped globally, converging near the deserts of Arabia, the very region where the vanished temple was rumored to stand. Coincidence or design? The same pattern appears in old hermetic diagrams of the serpent winding around the globe, its head resting beneath the rising sun. The message is clear. Whoever built the temple understood the earth as a living organism, and the serpent code was its heartbeat. Some believe this code remains active. Strange magnetic disturbances have been recorded along the supposed serpent lines, bursts of unexplained radiation, subtle shifts in atmospheric charge, even luminous phenomena seen rising from the ground like pale blue fire. To ancient eyes, these manifestations were the breath of the serpent, the planet's vital force made visible. If the temple once harnessed this energy, it might explain why it vanished not through destruction, but absorption. Perhaps it folded back into the earth's current, becoming part of the serpent once more. The true meaning of the serpent code lies not in worship, but in understanding. It teaches that energy moves in cycles, that creation is never static. The serpent devours its tail, not to end itself, but to begin again. To follow its path is to embrace transformation, to shed illusion, to awaken, to remember the origin that hides beneath the surface of being. The temple, the architects, the stones, all of it is part of that single, spiraling truth. Maybe that is why the serpent has survived every age of suppression. You can burn the libraries, bury the temples, rewrite the myths, but the pattern endures, etched into the very structure of life. And when humanity is ready to remember, the serpent will uncoil once more, revealing that the knowledge it guards was never forbidden. It was only waiting. Among the countless relics and records connected to the vanished temple, none have stirred as much dread or fascination as the manuscript known only as the testament of the first architects. For centuries, it was thought to be a myth whispered among monastic circles, a text that supposedly contained the original doctrines of the temple's builders, those who had deciphered the geometry of creation itself. But in the mid-19th century, fragments of the manuscript surfaced in the private collection of a Hungarian nobleman, Count Andor Verres. According to his journals, he purchased the pages from a Syrian antiquarian who claimed they had been discovered inside a sealed jar near the ruins of Palmyra. The parchment was brittle, written in a hybrid of Aramaic, Greek, and a script that has never been conclusively identified. Those who attempted to translate it were never the same again. The Count's translator, a linguist named Elias von Hohenheim, recorded that after weeks of study he began experiencing vivid dreams, visions of immense stone corridors, voices speaking in harmonic tones, and light that pulsed like a living being. He described the writing as not written but resonating, as though the ink itself vibrated with some invisible frequency. His notes, which survived in partial form, suggest that the manuscript described a ritual geometry, a method to open the gate of alignment, allowing the initiate to perceive reality as it truly is. A few days after claiming to have understood the first formula, von Hohenheim disappeared. The Count himself was later found dead, seated at his desk, his eyes open and his face frozen in a look of awe or terror. Rumors spread quickly through Europe's occult and academic circles. Secret societies fought to possess even a fragment of the manuscript. The Vatican declared it heretical and ordered any known copies destroyed. Yet pieces of it kept reappearing, always under strange circumstances. An anonymous parcel in London, a burned page recovered in Prague, a photographic plate in Paris showing diagrams made of concentric circles and triangles intersecting in impossible ways. Each time the fragments emerged, misfortune followed. Fires consumed libraries. Ships carrying the pages sank mysteriously, and those who had seen them often succumbed to madness or silence. The most complete translation ever attempted was done by a forgotten scholar named Dr. Arthur Leclerc in 1921. His version, now lost, was said to have contained instructions for harmonic construction, the process by which thought could shape matter through precise geometric alignment. Leclerc believed that the temple was not merely a physical structure, but a consciousness device, a resonator between human awareness and cosmic design. But before his findings could be published, Leclerc's apartment was ransacked and the professor vanished from public record. Only a single note remained, scribbled in haste. They listened through proportion. Today, the testament of the first architects is considered apocryphal, dismissed by mainstream historians as an invention of 19th century mystics. Yet researchers who have examined surviving descriptions claim the manuscript's diagrams match the proportions found in ancient sites thousands of miles apart. Even more unsettling are the modern parallels. Blueprints of particle accelerators, satellite arrays, and even certain modern city layouts echo the same ratios described in the lost text. Coincidence, perhaps, but to those who have studied the temple's mysteries, coincidence is merely geometry misunderstood. If the manuscript truly encodes the formula that bound heaven and earth, then its disappearance is no accident. Perhaps it was buried intentionally, hidden by those who feared that humanity might again awaken the forces once controlled within the temple's walls. For if the equations are ever fully reconstructed, the gate of alignment could open once more, and with it, the return of knowledge that was never meant to be known. Deep within the buried heart of the vanished temple lies what ancient texts call the Chamber of Whispers, a place described not in architectural terms, but in tones and sensations. The earliest references speak of it as the point of convergence between the material and the immaterial, a room that echoes not sound but thought. Archaeologists who have studied surviving blueprints and reliefs from related structures have long suspected that this chamber was built using perfect harmonic proportions, designed to resonate with the human mind rather than the human ear. Those who entered it, according to legend, did not merely hear voices, they felt them, as if the very air vibrated with memories not their own. The few surviving inscriptions attributed to the temple's builders describe the chamber as circular, with walls made of an unknown black stone that absorbed light completely. In its center stood a single pedestal carved with spiraling glyphs, symbols that seemed to rotate when viewed from different angles. The chamber's acoustics were said to defy natural law. Even a whisper could travel endlessly, circling the space without fading, as if preserved within the stone itself. Some claimed this was not an accident, but a deliberate design, a mechanism through which the temple could record consciousness, trapping fragments of thought and emotion from those who entered. In essence, the Chamber of Whispers was an ancient archive of minds. Throughout history, there have been scattered accounts of individuals who claim to have found remnants of this chamber, or, at least, to have encountered its influence. A 16th century Sufi mystic wrote of meditating in a desert cave that spoke with the voices of the forgotten. In the early 20th century, a British explorer, Frederick Dyer, reported hearing a low hum that seemed to contain 1,000 overlapping whispers while camping near an uncharted ruin in the Sudanese desert. Dyer returned to London visibly changed, haunted by insomnia and compulsive sketches of spiraling patterns that matched those of ancient temple carvings. Before his death, he told a confidant that he could still hear the voices, not from outside, but within his thoughts, like echoes seeking to complete unfinished sentences. Modern acoustic engineers who've studied descriptions of the chamber propose an astonishing theory, that its design manipulated standing sound waves at such precision that they could induce altered states of consciousness. Frequencies produced by the structure itself could theoretically synchronize the brain's electrical activity, creating a heightened perception of thought. To the ancients, this would have been divine communication. To modern science, it might represent an advanced form of neuroacoustic engineering, a technology lost thousands of years before its rediscovery. But the legends go further. Some texts hint that the Chamber of Whispers held the temple's greatest secret, the ability to translate thought into matter. It was said that within this resonance, the spoken word gained form, and imagination could manifest briefly as light. Priests of the temple were trained to speak in mathematical tones, their chants functioning as precise frequency codes that shaped the world around them. The chamber's destruction, or concealment, was believed to have been necessary to prevent misuse, for its power to manipulate existence itself blurred the line between creation and corruption. If remnants of the chamber still exist, they are likely buried beneath layers of protective stone, inaccessible to modern instruments. Yet explorers who have ventured into deep desert caverns report a peculiar sensation. Silence so complete it hums, and a weight in the air, as if reality itself grows thinner. Some describe feeling watched. Others say they hear faint voices calling their names in languages they do not know. Whether this is imagination or the last echo of a lost technology, no one can say. What remains certain is that the Chamber of Whispers symbolizes more than an ancient room. It represents the boundary between knowledge and madness, between listening to the universe and being consumed by it. The voices may still be speaking, trapped in eternal reverberation, waiting for someone, reckless or chosen, to answer back.
Knowledge from ancient Sumer, Egypt, and Mesoamerica, for example, may have been preserved, reinterpreted, and transmitted through mystery schools, esoteric orders, and initiatory traditions. Symbols, rituals, and encoded text served as bridges across time, ensuring that the insights of vanished civilizations remain accessible to those trained to understand them. This continuity highlights a sophisticated awareness of the fragility of knowledge and the necessity of protective custodianship. The tension between secrecy and revelation is a recurring theme. While these societies guarded knowledge, they also sought to pass it forward, often embedding guidance in ways that would be interpreted gradually. Spirals carved into monuments, encoded glyphs on artifacts, celestial alignments in temples, and ritual symbolism all served as layers of communication. Each layer offered insight appropriate to the observer's level of initiation, creating a system that could endure across centuries, survive societal collapse, and gradually reveal its wisdom as humanity became ready to comprehend it. Ultimately, the role of secret societies in preserving knowledge of cycles, catastrophe, and cosmic order cannot be overstated. They function as guardians, interpreters, and transmitters, ensuring that wisdom survived beyond the lifespan of individual civilizations. Through their careful stewardship, the symbolic, architectural, and ritual records of ancient knowledge remain available to modern researchers. By studying these societies, we gain not only historical insight, but also a deeper understanding of the mechanisms by which human civilizations have sought to record, protect, and transmit understanding of forces far greater than themselves. The secretive guardians of knowledge remind us that true understanding often requires patience, discipline, and initiation. The symbols, artifacts, maps, and prophecies they protected were not for casual observation. They were intended for careful interpretation by those prepared to grasp the complexity of cycles, cosmic patterns, and fragility of human existence. Their work endures, quietly influencing our understanding of ancient wisdom, esoteric knowledge, and the hidden patterns that shape our world.
One of the most compelling aspects of the Lost Codex lies in its hidden symbols. Unlike ordinary manuscripts, which convey knowledge through straightforward text, the Codex employs a multi-layered symbolic language, encoded to challenge, protect, and guide the reader. These symbols are not mere decoration or cryptic art. They are keys, gateways to understanding the profound truths concealed within the Codex. Deciphering them requires not only analytical skill, but also intuition, historical awareness, and a willingness to perceive beyond the visible. From the earliest accounts, the codex's symbols were described as intricate, often blending geometry, astronomy, and allegory. Circles, spirals, intersecting lines, and abstract motifs dominate the pages, appearing at first glance as ornamental. Yet careful study reveals patterns, relationships, and correspondences that suggest a systematic encoding of knowledge. Some symbols correlate with celestial cycles, mathematical constants, or natural phenomena, hinting at an understanding of the universe that surpasses conventional science. Others appear as representations of moral or spiritual principles, merging the practical with the metaphysical. Geometric patterns are particularly prominent. Triangles, squares, and pentagons recur alongside concentric circles and intersecting lines, forming networks of meaning that suggest a fusion of mathematics, cosmology, and philosophy. Certain arrangements mirror the architecture of ancient temples, the alignments of megalithic structures, or the layout of sacred cities, implying that the codex was not only a text, but also a blueprint for harmonizing human activity with cosmic order. These geometric symbols operate on multiple levels, encoding both practical knowledge and metaphysical insight. Astronomical symbolism is another critical feature. Stars, planets, constellations, and celestial cycles appear frequently, often intertwined with numerological and geometric motifs. Scholars speculate that these diagrams serve as guides to understanding time, cosmic patterns, and historical cycles. Some symbols align with solstices, equinoxes, or lunar phases, indicating that the codex integrates observational astronomy with symbolic wisdom. By decoding these celestial signs, seekers could potentially unlock insights into human history, future events, and the fundamental principles governing the universe. Animal symbolism also permeates the codex. Birds, serpents, lions, and mythical creatures recur across pages, often embedded within geometric or celestial diagrams. Each animal carries layered meanings: spiritual, philosophical, and practical. For instance, serpents may represent cycles of renewal, hidden knowledge, or the duality of creation and destruction, while birds might symbolize transcendence, observation, and the movement between earthly and celestial realms. These symbols create a rich tapestry of metaphor, demanding careful interpretation and contextual understanding. Color, though subtle in surviving fragments, appears to have played a deliberate role. Variations in hue, shading, and contrast suggest layers of meaning intended to guide the reader's perception, highlighting connections or emphasizing important concepts. In some cases, color-coded symbols may correspond to elements, energies, or cosmological principles, reinforcing the codex's multidimensional nature. Even the physical arrangement of symbols on the page, spacing, orientation, and sequencing, appears intentional, suggesting that the codex is as much a visual and spatial experience as a textual one. The codex's symbolic language is deliberately multi-layered, allowing for interpretation at different levels. A single symbol may convey practical instruction, philosophical principle, and spiritual insight simultaneously. This multiplicity of meaning makes the codex both powerful and elusive. A casual observer may perceive only the surface, while a trained or intuitive seeker may uncover deeper layers. The symbols thus act as both a safeguard and a guide, protecting knowledge from misuse while directing the attentive reader toward enlightenment. Ciphers and coded sequences further complicate the codex. Marginal notes, interlocking patterns, and repeating motifs suggest an internal logic or key that has yet to be fully deciphered. Scholars who attempt to analyze these codes often find themselves at a crossroads. Literal interpretation yields partial insight, while symbolic or intuitive approaches reveal more profound understanding. The codex's symbols challenge conventional modes of thinking, encouraging seekers to integrate analytical, creative, and spiritual faculties in the pursuit of knowledge. Historical references indicate that these symbols were not purely decorative or cryptic for entertainment. They were instructional. The codex may have served as a manual, guiding initiates through complex systems of cosmology, philosophy, and practical wisdom. Temples, monuments, and ceremonial practices often incorporate similar symbols, suggesting that the codex provided a blueprint for aligning human activity with larger cosmic principles. In this sense, geological records and environmental evidence. This approach often reveals a remarkable correlation between symbolic predictions and observable patterns, suggesting that ancient seers encoded real-world phenomena in metaphorical or ritualized language. Such findings challenge the assumption that prophecy is purely fictional, highlighting instead the sophisticated observation and analysis that underpin these ancient predictions. Modern society, despite its scientific and technological prowess, remains vulnerable to the same cycles of catastrophe that ancient civilizations sought to understand and anticipate. Floods, earthquakes, solar storms, and climatic shifts all pose threats similar in scale to events recorded by our ancestors. The warnings encoded in maps, artifacts, monuments, and prophecies remind us that human progress does not exempt us from natural or cosmic cycles. In fact, the rapid transformation of the environment through urbanization, deforestation, and climate change may amplify these risks, making the lessons of the past more urgent than ever. Finally, the study of modern echoes of ancient warnings fosters a sense of continuity and responsibility. Humanity is not disconnected from its past. We are participants in ongoing cycles, observers and actors within the patterns that have shaped civilizations for millennia. By recognizing the recurring motifs, celestial alignments, and encoded warnings preserved by lost civilizations, secret societies, and prophetic traditions, we gain a framework for understanding current and future challenges. The symbolic language of the past, when decoded thoughtfully, provides guidance, caution, and insight, tools to navigate the uncertainties of the present and prepare for the potential upheavals that lie ahead. Modern echoes of ancient warnings are not relics of superstition. They are living signals of a world that has always been cyclical, interconnected, and governed by forces both observable and mysterious. By studying these echoes carefully, integrating them with contemporary knowledge, and approaching them with both curiosity and respect, we can access a reservoir of wisdom that transcends time. Humanity stands at a unique intersection, capable of scientific analysis, yet still able to draw profound lessons from the symbolic, prophetic, and esoteric knowledge preserved by those who came before. The echoes of ancient warnings remind us that the past is not gone. It resonates in the present, shaping our understanding, our survival, and our perception of the world's enduring patterns. The Lost Codex, it seems, was never intended to be understood solely through text or symbols. Its meaning was deeply intertwined with geography. Across centuries, references suggest that the Codex contained encoded knowledge of lost locations, sacred sites, and ancient cities long vanished from collective memory. These maps and coordinates were not merely practical tools for navigation. They were keys to hidden wisdom, linking physical spaces with spiritual, philosophical, and cosmic principles. Understanding the Codex, therefore, required a dual mastery of both intellect and intuition, a journey that spanned from libraries and archives to mountains, deserts, and ruins. Medieval explorers and early modern cartographers often noted peculiar references to places forgotten by time or hidden from common sight. These annotations, sometimes marginalia in manuscripts or encoded within diagrams, pointed to locations of immense significance. Scholars who studied these references realized that they might correspond to sites of ritual importance, repositories of lost knowledge, or centers of ancient civilizations. While some locations corresponded to known cities and temples, others seemed to exist in liminal spaces, deserts, hidden valleys, or remote mountain ranges, places deliberately obscured from ordinary travelers to preserve their sanctity and the knowledge contained within. Many of these lost locations carry a consistent theme: alignment. Ancient structures, according to historical references, often corresponded with astronomical events, geomagnetic phenomena, or sacred geometry encoded in the codex. Temples, pyramids, and megalithic sites were not isolated constructions. They formed networks, each serving as a node in a larger map of knowledge. The codex, it appears, contained instructions or hints for identifying and interpreting these sites. By following the encoded coordinates, one could potentially reconstruct the network, revealing patterns that spoke to both practical understanding of the natural world and deeper metaphysical insight. Some scholars suggest that the codex's maps were multidimensional, requiring simultaneous understanding of geography, astronomy, and symbolic language. A mountain might be marked not only for its location, but for its relation to constellations, seasonal changes, or energy alignments. Rivers, deserts, and valleys might represent physical, spiritual, or philosophical pathways. The codex's maps, therefore, are not mere cartography. They are a sophisticated integration of spatial, temporal, and symbolic knowledge, designed to guide the seeker along a journey that is simultaneously physical and metaphysical. Historical accounts provide tantalizing glimpses of these lost locations. Pilgrims, explorers, and adventurers describe journeys to valleys hidden behind impassable terrain, temples concealed within jungles, and underground chambers beneath ruined cities. Many of these sites were marked by inscriptions, architectural cues, or symbolic markers corresponding to the codex's diagrams. These accounts suggest that knowledge of such locations was transmitted selectively, often orally or through encoded manuscripts, ensuring that only those initiated into the deeper understanding of the codex could navigate its hidden geography. Cartography in the early modern period provides further evidence of the codex's influence. Maps from the 15th to 17th centuries occasionally include enigmatic symbols, lines, or annotations that resist conventional interpretation. Some researchers argue that these marks correspond to the codex's encoded directions, pointing toward lost cities, hidden temples, or sites of extraordinary significance. The interplay between cartography and symbolism in these maps suggests that ancient and early modern explorers were not merely charting terrain, but decoding a layered system of knowledge linking the physical and metaphysical worlds. The codex's geographic dimension also intersects with mythology and legend. Many lost locations referenced within its pages appear in folklore, epic poems, and religious texts. Cities of gold, subterranean vaults, implying a level of observation and record-keeping beyond what mainstream history has acknowledged. These anomalies suggest that mapmakers combined empirical observation with symbolic interpretation, preserving warnings about catastrophic events in a form accessible only to those trained to read the signs. Modern analysis of hidden maps reveals remarkable parallels with ancient prophecies and artifacts. Symbols observed on maps, serpents, spirals, triangles, concentric circles, echo those found in sacred monuments, artifacts, and religious texts. The consistent recurrence of these motifs across time and geography indicates a shared symbolic language used to communicate cycles of destruction, cosmic alignments, and the geography of risk. By studying maps in conjunction with archaeological and esoteric evidence, researchers can reconstruct a predictive framework once employed by civilizations attuned to the cycles of earth and sky. Maps also reflect the intersection of human observation, environmental awareness, and celestial knowledge. Many charts align with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary positions, suggesting that geography and astronomy were intimately linked. Sacred sites, catastrophic zones, and environmental hazards were encoded in spatial and symbolic terms, creating layered maps that serve practical, spiritual, and prophetic purposes. These maps were not static. They functioned as living tools, guiding decisions, ritual practice, and preparation for natural and cosmic cycles. Finally, the study of hidden maps challenges contemporary assumptions about history and geography. They demonstrate that ancient civilizations possessed a depth of knowledge that combined observation, symbolism, and prediction. By decoding these maps, We gain insight into the cycles of catastrophe that shaped civilizations, the symbolic language used to preserve knowledge, and the foresight embedded in the geography itself. Hidden maps are not merely relics. They are keys to understanding patterns of disaster, cosmic alignment, and human survival, preserving wisdom from civilizations that recognize the recurring rhythms of the Earth long before modern science. Maps, when viewed as symbolic and predictive instruments, reveal a complex understanding of the interplay between human societies, the environment, and cosmic forces. Ancient cartographers did not merely chart land. They encoded knowledge about catastrophe, cycles, and sacred geography. Their work provides a bridge across time, connecting us to the insights, warnings, and wisdom of civilizations that observed, recorded, and sought to survive the forces that continue to shape our world. The Lost Codex, as tantalizing as it is mysterious, appears to contain more than symbolic wisdom or philosophical insight. It hints at technologies far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. Across its surviving fragments and encoded references, scholars and researchers have discovered patterns suggesting knowledge of mechanics, engineering, astronomy, and materials science that seem strikingly advanced for the periods in which the Codex was allegedly created. The text does not present these technologies as mere inventions. It integrates them into a broader system of knowledge that merges practical application with cosmic understanding. Descriptions within the Codex hint at mechanisms resembling water pumps, levers, pulleys, and even early analog computation. Geometric diagrams correspond to gear systems, rotational motion, and energy transfer, while annotated notes suggest principles of efficiency, load distribution, and structural integrity. Some scholars have drawn parallels between these illustrations and artifacts unearthed at ancient sites, where construction methods and machinery appear remarkably sophisticated. These correlations suggest that the Codex may have served as a compendium of applied knowledge, a manual for engineering and scientific innovation preserved across centuries through symbolic encoding. Astronomy and celestial mechanics also feature prominently. The Codex includes diagrams that correlate planetary positions, lunar phases, and solar cycles with geometric patterns and encoded instructions. Some researchers speculate that these diagrams functioned as primitive yet precise astronomical calculators, enabling predictions of celestial events and the creation of calendars aligned with natural rhythms. In an era when observation was limited to the naked eye, such foresight would have represented a profound understanding of the cosmos and its cycles, allowing civilizations to plan agricultural, religious, and social activities with unparalleled accuracy. The Codex's technological content extends to materials and construction methods. Certain symbols and annotations suggest knowledge of metallurgy, stoneworking, and durable composite materials. These insights may explain the long-lasting structures and artifacts produced by ancient civilizations, which have withstood centuries of erosion, earthquakes, and environmental change. For example, geometric instructions encoded in the Codex may have guided the precise alignment of megalithic stones, pyramids, or temples, ensuring structural stability while embedding symbolic meaning into their very design. The interplay of technology and symbolism demonstrates that the Codex does not separate the practical from the metaphysical. Rather, it fuses them, revealing a holistic understanding of the world. One of the most fascinating aspects of these ancient technologies is their apparent ethical dimension. The Codex repeatedly emphasizes balance, harmony, and responsible application. Diagrams and instructions are often coupled with symbolic warnings, indicating that the knowledge they convey carries power and responsibility. This ethical framing suggests that the Codex was not merely a technical manual, but a guide to applying knowledge wisely, with awareness of its potential consequences. In this way, the technologies encoded within its pages are inseparable from the moral and philosophical context that governs their use. Some modern interpretations suggest that the Codex even contains principles resembling renewable energy or advanced mechanics. Water wheels, solar tracking diagrams, and airflow calculations hint at an understanding of energy harnessing that surpasses what is typically attributed to ancient societies. If these interpretations are accurate, the Codex represents a repository of knowledge capable of influencing not only historical technology, but potentially guiding contemporary innovation. This possibility adds another layer to its mystique, a document simultaneously ancient and timeless, containing insights that remain relevant today. Engineering applications described in the Codex are not limited to machinery or celestial instruments. References to architectural design, urban planning, and structural alignment suggest a sophisticated understanding of environmental adaptation. Temples, citadels, and city layouts encoded in the text reflect knowledge of drainage, wind patterns, solar orientation, and acoustics. These features indicate that the Codex served as a blueprint for civilizations seeking to harmonize human activity with natural and cosmic forces, blending engineering precision with spiritual and symbolic significance. The Codex's technologies also appear to anticipate later developments in mathematics and geometry. Complex ratios, proportional systems, and mathematical constants are embedded within diagrams, hinting at calculations and principles not widely recognized until centuries later. These findings suggest that the Codex may have served as a bridge between empirical observation and theoretical knowledge, providing practical applications while subtly encoding abstract mathematical concepts. By integrating mathematics, mechanics, and metaphysics, the Codex demonstrates a level of intellectual sophistication rarely acknowledged in discussions of ancient civilizations. What makes these technological insights especially compelling is their preservation through symbolism and secrecy. The Codex's authors may have deliberately encoded advanced knowledge to protect it from misuse or misunderstanding. By embedding engineering principles within allegorical diagrams, geometric shapes, and symbolic language, they ensured that only those with the intellectual and ethical capacity to comprehend the material could access it. This method of concealment mirrors the broader theme of the Codex. Knowledge is powerful, and its guardianship requires both discretion and discernment. The intersection of technology and prophecy further deepens the Codex's mystery. Some diagrams suggest predictive mechanisms capable of aligning human activity with cosmic cycles. By understanding celestial patterns, energy flows. Spirals, serpents, concentric circles, and triangles appear repeatedly in monuments, artifacts, and texts associated with astronomical observation. These symbols may have served as mnemonic devices, allowing knowledge to survive through oral tradition, ritual, and art. They connected the microcosm of human society to the macrocosm of the universe, encoding the understanding that cycles in the heavens often mirrored cycles on Earth. Celestial alignments also functioned as a universal language. Across continents and eras, similar symbols and patterns appear, suggesting either cultural transmission or a shared human perception of cosmic order. These alignments acted as bridges between civilizations, transmitting knowledge of cycles, disasters, and transformation in a format that transcended spoken language. Initiates and scholars could interpret the skies, monuments, and symbols, gaining access to predictive knowledge preserved over millennia. Importantly, celestial warnings often carried practical implications. Observing planetary conjunctions, eclipses, or cometary appearances could inform agricultural planning, societal rituals, and emergency preparation. These warnings were not merely spiritual, they were survival tools. By embedding astronomical knowledge into temples, monuments, and artifacts, ancient peoples ensured that even in the event of societal collapse, critical insight would endure, waiting for those capable of interpretation. The patterns recorded by ancient civilizations continue to resonate today. Modern astronomers and researchers have noted that certain cycles observed in antiquity, such as planetary alignments or solar and lunar eclipses, correlate with environmental phenomena and historical patterns. By studying the symbolic and astronomical records left by the ancients, we gain insights not only into the past, but also into potential future events. Celestial alignments, when interpreted in the context of historical patterns, artifacts, and maps, provide a layered understanding of cyclical risk and cosmic influence. In essence, celestial alignments functioned as a cosmic clock, a warning system, and a repository of knowledge. They linked human experience to the vast cycles of the universe, offering guidance on how to anticipate disruption, understand transformation, and prepare for renewal. Ancient societies, by encoding this knowledge in symbols, architecture, and ritual, created a resilient framework capable of transmitting wisdom across centuries, civilizations, and continents. The stars themselves became teachers, and the monuments of Earth their enduring record. The study of celestial alignments and cosmic warnings reveals a profound truth. Humanity has always been connected to larger forces, subject to cycles beyond immediate comprehension. Observing the skies, encoding knowledge in symbols, and constructing aligned monuments were strategies to understand and anticipate these forces. Today, by decoding these alignments, we reconnect with the wisdom of the ancients, gaining insight into patterns of catastrophe and renewal that continue to shape our world. The heavens, as always, are both guide and warning, a timeless record waiting to be interpreted, implying a level of observation and record-keeping beyond what mainstream history has acknowledged. These anomalies suggest that mapmakers combined empirical observation with symbolic interpretation, preserving warnings about catastrophic events in a form accessible only to those trained to read the signs. Modern analysis of hidden maps reveals remarkable parallels with ancient prophecies and artifacts. Symbols observed on maps, serpents, spirals, triangles, concentric circles, echo those found in sacred monuments, artifacts, and religious texts. The consistent recurrence of these motifs across time and geography indicates a shared symbolic language used to communicate cycles of destruction, cosmic alignments, and the geography of risk. By studying maps in conjunction with archaeological and esoteric evidence, researchers can reconstruct a predictive framework once employed by civilizations attuned to the cycles of Earth and sky. Maps also reflect the intersection of human observation, environmental awareness, and celestial knowledge. Many charts align with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary positions, suggesting that geography and astronomy were intimately linked. Sacred sites, catastrophic zones, and environmental hazards were encoded in spatial and symbolic terms, creating layered maps that serve practical, spiritual, and prophetic purposes. These maps were not static. They functioned as living tools, guiding decisions, ritual practice, and preparation for natural and cosmic cycles. Finally, the study of hidden maps challenges contemporary assumptions about history and geography. They demonstrate that ancient civilizations possessed a depth of knowledge that combined observation, symbolism, and prediction. By decoding these maps, we gain insight into the cycles of catastrophe that shaped civilizations, the symbolic language used to preserve knowledge, and the foresight embedded in the geography itself. Hidden maps are not merely relics. They are keys to understanding patterns of disaster, cosmic alignment, and human survival, preserving wisdom from civilizations that recognize the recurring rhythms of the Earth long before modern science. Maps, when viewed as symbolic and predictive instruments, reveal a complex understanding of the interplay between human societies, the environment, and cosmic forces. Ancient cartographers did not merely chart land. They encoded knowledge about catastrophe, cycles, and sacred geography. Their work provides a bridge across time, connecting us to the insights, warnings, and wisdom of civilizations that observed, recorded, and sought to survive the forces that continue to shape our world. The Lost Codex, as tantalizing as it is mysterious, appears to contain more than symbolic wisdom or philosophical insight. It hints at technologies far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. Across its surviving fragments and encoded references, scholars and researchers have discovered patterns suggesting knowledge of mechanics, engineering, astronomy, and material science that seems strikingly advanced for the periods in which the Codex was allegedly created. The text does not present these technologies as mere inventions. It integrates them into a broader system of knowledge that merges practical application with cosmic understanding. Descriptions within the codex hint at mechanisms resembling water pumps, levers, pulleys, and even early analog computation. Geometric diagrams correspond to gear systems, rotational motion, and energy transfer, while annotated notes suggest principles of efficiency, load distribution, and structural integrity. Some scholars have drawn parallels between these illustrations and artifacts unearthed at ancient sites, where construction methods and machinery appear remarkably sophisticated. These correlations suggest that the codex may have served as a compendium of applied knowledge, a manual for engineering and scientific innovation preserved across centuries through symbolic encoding. Astronomy and celestial mechanics also feature prominently. The codex includes diagrams that correlate planetary positions, lunar phases, and solar cycles with geometric patterns and encoded instructions. Some researchers speculate that these diagrams functioned as primitive yet precise astronomical calculators, enabling predictions of celestial events and the creation of calendars aligned with natural rhythms. In an era when observation was limited to the naked eye, such foresight would have represented a profound understanding of the cosmos and its cycles, allowing civilizations to plan agricultural, religious, and social activities with unparalleled accuracy. The codex's technological content extends to materials and construction methods. Certain symbols and annotations suggest knowledge of metallurgy, stoneworking, and durable composite materials. These insights may explain the long-lasting structures and artifacts produced by ancient civilizations, which have withstood centuries of erosion, earthquakes, and environmental change. For example, geometric instructions encoded in the codex may have guided the precise alignment of megalithic stones, pyramids, or temples, ensuring structural stability while embedding symbolic meaning into their very design. The interplay of technology and symbolism demonstrates that the codex does not separate the practical from the metaphysical. Rather, it fuses them, revealing a holistic understanding of the world. One of the most fascinating aspects of these ancient technologies is their apparent ethical dimension. The codex repeatedly emphasizes balance, harmony, and responsible application. Diagrams and instructions are often coupled with symbolic warnings, indicating that the knowledge they convey carries power and responsibility. This ethical framing suggests that the codex was not merely a technical manual, but a guide to applying knowledge wisely, with awareness of its potential consequences. In this way, the technologies encoded within its pages are inseparable from the moral and philosophical context that governs their use. Some modern interpretations suggest that the codex even contains principles resembling renewable energy or advanced mechanics. Water wheels, solar tracking diagrams, and airflow calculations hint at an understanding of energy harnessing that surpasses what is typically attributed to ancient societies. If these interpretations are accurate, the codex represents a repository of knowledge capable of influencing not only historical technology, but potentially guiding contemporary innovation. This possibility adds another layer to its mystique, a document simultaneously ancient and timeless, containing insights that remain relevant today. Engineering applications described in the codex are not limited to machinery or celestial instruments. References to architectural design, urban planning, and structural alignment suggest a sophisticated understanding of environmental adaptation. Temples, citadels, and city layouts encoded in the text reflect knowledge of drainage, wind patterns, solar orientation, and acoustics. These features indicate that the codex served as a blueprint for civilizations seeking to harmonize human activity with natural and cosmic forces, blending engineering precision with spiritual and symbolic significance. The codex's technologies also appear to anticipate later developments in mathematics and geometry. Complex ratios, proportional systems, and mathematical constants are embedded within diagrams, hinting at calculations and principles not widely recognized until centuries later. These findings suggest that the codex may have served as a bridge between empirical observation and theoretical knowledge, providing practical applications while subtly encoding abstract mathematical concepts. By integrating mathematics, mechanics, and metaphysics, the codex demonstrates a level of intellectual sophistication rarely acknowledged in discussions of ancient civilizations. What makes these technological insights especially compelling is their preservation through symbolism and secrecy. The codex's authors may have deliberately encoded advanced knowledge to protect it from misuse or misunderstanding. By embedding engineering principles within allegorical diagrams, geometric shapes, and symbolic language, they ensured that only those with the intellectual and ethical capacity to comprehend the material could access it. This method of concealment mirrors the broader theme of the codex. Knowledge is powerful, and its guardianship requires both discretion and discernment. The intersection of technology and prophecy further deepens the codex's mystery. Some diagrams suggest predictive mechanisms capable of aligning human activity with cosmic cycles. By understanding celestial patterns, energy flows. Spirals, serpents, concentric circles, and triangles appear repeatedly in monuments, artifacts, and texts associated with astronomical observation. These symbols may have served as mnemonic devices, allowing knowledge to survive through oral tradition, ritual, and art. They connected the microcosm of human society to the macrocosm of the universe, encoding the understanding that cycles in the heavens often mirrored cycles on Earth. Celestial alignments also functioned as a universal language. Across continents and eras, similar symbols and patterns appear, suggesting either cultural transmission or a shared human perception of cosmic order. These alignments acted as bridges between civilizations, transmitting knowledge of cycles, disasters, and transformation in a format that transcended spoken language. Initiates and scholars could interpret the skies, monuments, and symbols, gaining access to predictive knowledge preserved over millennia. Importantly, celestial warnings often carried practical implications. Observing planetary conjunctions, eclipses, or cometary appearances could inform agricultural planning, societal rituals, and emergency preparation. These warnings were not merely spiritual, they were survival tools. By embedding astronomical knowledge into temples, monuments, and artifacts, ancient peoples ensured that even in the event of societal collapse, critical insight would endure, waiting for those capable of interpretation. The patterns recorded by ancient civilizations continue to resonate today. Modern astronomers and researchers have noted that certain cycles observed in antiquity, such as planetary alignments or solar and lunar eclipses, correlate with environmental phenomena and historical patterns. By studying the symbolic and astronomical records left by the ancients, we gain insights not only into the past, but also into potential future events. Celestial alignments, when interpreted in the context of historical patterns, artifacts, and maps, provide a layered understanding of cyclical risk and cosmic influence. In essence, celestial alignments functioned as a cosmic clock, a warning system, and a repository of knowledge. They linked human experience to the vast cycles of the universe, offering guidance on how to anticipate disruption, understand transformation, and prepare for renewal. Ancient societies, by encoding this knowledge in symbols, architecture, and ritual, created a resilient framework capable of transmitting wisdom across centuries, civilizations, and continents. The stars themselves became teachers, and the monuments of Earth their enduring record. The study of celestial alignments and cosmic warnings reveals a profound truth. Humanity has always been connected to larger forces, subject to cycles beyond immediate comprehension. Observing the skies, encoding knowledge in symbols, and constructing aligned monuments were strategies to understand and anticipate these forces. Today, by decoding these alignments, we reconnect with the wisdom of the ancients, gaining insight into patterns of catastrophe and renewal that continue to shape our world. The heavens, as always, are both guide and warning, a timeless record waiting to be interpreted. implying a level of observation and record-keeping beyond what mainstream history has acknowledged. These anomalies suggest that mapmakers combined empirical observation with symbolic interpretation, preserving warnings about catastrophic events in a form accessible only to those trained to read the signs. Modern analysis of hidden maps reveals remarkable parallels with ancient prophecies and artifacts. Symbols observed on maps, serpents, spirals, triangles, concentric circles, echo those found in sacred monuments, artifacts, and religious texts. The consistent recurrence of these motifs across time and geography indicates a shared symbolic language used to communicate cycles of destruction, cosmic alignments, and the geography of risk. By studying maps in conjunction with archaeological and esoteric evidence, researchers can reconstruct a predictive framework once employed by civilizations attuned to the cycles of Earth and sky. Maps also reflect the intersection of human observation, environmental awareness, and celestial knowledge. Many charts align with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary positions, suggesting that geography and astronomy were intimately linked. Sacred sites, catastrophic zones, and environmental hazards were encoded in spatial and symbolic terms, creating layered maps that serve practical, spiritual, and prophetic purposes. These maps were not static. They functioned as living tools, guiding decisions, ritual practice, and preparation for natural and cosmic cycles. Finally, the study of hidden maps challenges contemporary assumptions about history and geography. They demonstrate that ancient civilizations possessed a depth of knowledge that combined observation, symbolism, and prediction. By decoding these maps, we gain insight into the cycles of catastrophe that shaped civilizations, the symbolic language used to preserve knowledge, and the foresight embedded in the geography itself. Hidden maps are not merely relics. They are keys to understanding patterns of disaster, cosmic alignment, and human survival, preserving wisdom from civilizations that recognize the recurring rhythms of the Earth long before modern science. Maps, when viewed as symbolic and predictive instruments, reveal a complex understanding of the interplay between human societies, the environment, and cosmic forces. Ancient cartographers did not merely chart land. They encoded knowledge about catastrophe, cycles, and sacred geography. Their work provides a bridge across time, connecting us to the insights, warnings, and wisdom of civilizations that observed, recorded, and sought to survive the forces that continue to shape our world. The Lost Codex, as tantalizing as it is mysterious, appears to contain more than symbolic wisdom or philosophical insight. It hints at technologies far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. Across its surviving fragments and encoded references, scholars and researchers have discovered patterns suggesting knowledge of mechanics, engineering, astronomy, and material science that seem strikingly advanced for the periods in which the Codex was allegedly created. The text does not present these technologies as mere inventions. It integrates them into a broader system of knowledge that merges practical application with cosmic understanding. Descriptions within the Codex hint at mechanisms resembling water pumps, levers, pulleys, and even early analog computation. Geometric diagrams correspond to gear systems, rotational motion, and energy transfer, while annotated notes suggest principles of efficiency, load distribution, and structural integrity. Some scholars have drawn parallels between these illustrations and artifacts unearthed at ancient sites, where construction methods and machinery appear remarkably sophisticated. These correlations suggest that the Codex may have served as a compendium of applied knowledge, a manual for engineering and scientific innovation preserved across centuries through symbolic encoding. Astronomy and celestial mechanics also feature prominently. The Codex includes diagrams that correlate planetary positions, lunar phases, and solar cycles with geometric patterns and encoded instructions. Some researchers speculate that these diagrams functioned as primitive yet precise astronomical calculators, enabling predictions of celestial events and the creation of calendars aligned with natural rhythms. In an era when observation was limited to the naked eye, Such foresight would have represented a profound understanding of the cosmos and its cycles, allowing civilizations to plan agricultural, religious, and social activities with unparalleled accuracy. The Codex's technological content extends to materials and construction methods. Certain symbols and annotations suggest knowledge of metallurgy, stoneworking, and durable composite materials. These insights may explain the long-lasting structures and artifacts produced by ancient civilizations, which have withstood centuries of erosion, earthquakes, and environmental change. For example, geometric instructions encoded in the Codex may have guided the precise alignment of megalithic stones, pyramids, or temples, ensuring structural stability while embedding symbolic meaning into their very design. The interplay of technology and symbolism demonstrates that the Codex does not separate the practical from the metaphysical. Rather, it fuses them, revealing a holistic understanding of the world. One of the most fascinating aspects of these ancient technologies is their apparent ethical dimension. The Codex repeatedly emphasizes balance, harmony, and responsible application. Diagrams and instructions are often coupled with symbolic warnings, indicating that the knowledge they convey carries power and responsibility. This ethical framing suggests that the Codex was not merely a technical manual, but a guide to applying knowledge wisely, with awareness of its potential consequences. In this way, the technologies encoded within its pages are inseparable from the moral and philosophical context that governs their use. Some modern interpretations suggest that the Codex even contains principles resembling renewable energy or advanced mechanics. Water wheels, solar tracking diagrams, and airflow calculations hint at an understanding of energy harnessing that surpasses what is typically attributed to ancient societies. If these interpretations are accurate, the Codex represents a repository of knowledge capable of influencing not only historical technology, but potentially guiding contemporary innovation. This possibility adds another layer to its mystique, a document simultaneously ancient and timeless, containing insights that remain relevant today. Engineering applications described in the Codex are not limited to machinery or celestial instruments. References to architectural design, urban planning, and structural alignment suggest a sophisticated understanding of environmental adaptation. Temples, citadels, and city layouts encoded in the text reflect knowledge of drainage, wind patterns, solar orientation, and acoustics. These features indicate that the Codex served as a blueprint for civilizations seeking to harmonize human activity with natural and cosmic forces, blending engineering precision with spiritual and symbolic significance. The Codex's technologies also appear to anticipate later developments in mathematics and geometry. Complex ratios, proportional systems, and mathematical constants are embedded within diagrams, hinting at calculations and principles not widely recognized until centuries later. These findings suggest that the Codex may have served as a bridge between empirical observation and theoretical knowledge, providing practical applications while subtly encoding abstract mathematical concepts. By integrating mathematics, mechanics, and metaphysics, the Codex demonstrates a level of intellectual sophistication rarely acknowledged in discussions of ancient civilizations. What makes these technological insights especially compelling is their preservation through symbolism and secrecy. The Codex's authors may have deliberately encoded advanced knowledge to protect it from misuse or misunderstanding. By embedding engineering principles within allegorical diagrams, geometric shapes, and symbolic language, they ensured that only those with the intellectual and ethical capacity to comprehend the material could access it. This method of concealment mirrors the broader theme of the Codex. Knowledge is powerful, and its guardianship requires both discretion and discernment. The intersection of technology and prophecy further deepens the Codex's mystery. Some diagrams suggest predictive mechanisms capable of aligning human activity with cosmic cycles. By understanding celestial patterns, energy flows. Spirals, serpents, concentric circles, and triangles appear repeatedly in monuments, artifacts, and texts associated with astronomical observation. These symbols may have served as mnemonic devices, allowing knowledge to survive through oral tradition, ritual, and art. They connected the microcosm of human society to the macrocosm of the universe, encoding the understanding that cycles in the heavens often mirrored cycles on Earth. Celestial alignments also functioned as a universal language. Across continents and eras, similar symbols and patterns appear, suggesting either cultural transmission or a shared human perception of cosmic order. These alignments acted as bridges between civilizations, transmitting knowledge of cycles, disasters, and transformation in a format that transcended spoken language. Initiates and scholars could interpret the skies, monuments, and symbols, gaining access to predictive knowledge preserved over millennia. Importantly, celestial warnings often carried practical implications. Observing planetary conjunctions, eclipses, or cometary appearances could inform agricultural planning, societal rituals, and emergency preparation. These warnings were not merely spiritual, they were survival tools. By embedding astronomical knowledge into temples, monuments, and artifacts, ancient peoples ensured that even in the event of societal collapse, critical insight would endure, waiting for those capable of interpretation. The patterns recorded by ancient civilizations continue to resonate today. Modern astronomers and researchers have noted that certain cycles observed in antiquity, such as planetary alignments or solar and lunar eclipses, correlate with environmental phenomena and historical patterns. By studying the symbolic and astronomical records left by the ancients, we gain insights not only into the past, but also into potential future events. Celestial alignments, when interpreted in the context of historical patterns, artifacts, and maps, provide a layered understanding of cyclical risk and cosmic influence. In essence, celestial alignments functioned as a cosmic clock, a warning system, and a repository of knowledge. They linked human experience to the vast cycles of the universe, offering guidance on how to anticipate disruption, understand transformation, and prepare for renewal. Ancient societies, by encoding this knowledge in symbols, architecture, and ritual, created a resilient framework capable of transmitting wisdom across centuries, civilizations, and continents. The stars themselves became teachers, and the monuments of Earth their enduring record. The study of celestial alignments and cosmic warnings reveals a profound truth. Humanity has always been connected to larger forces, subject to cycles beyond immediate comprehension. Observing the skies, encoding knowledge in symbols, and constructing aligned monuments were strategies to understand and anticipate these forces. Today, by decoding these alignments, we reconnect with the wisdom of the ancients, gaining insight into patterns of catastrophe and renewal that continue to shape our world. The heavens, as always, are both guide and warning, a timeless record waiting to be interpreted.